Hi, Prajnesh.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. How about you?
Good, thank you.
I know you are in Chennai. Things are quite bad there, but hopefully things are okay with you. Of course, I mean, you seem to be okay. Your friends, family, how's life?
Yeah, everything is good. So far, so good. There have been some cases around, but luckily, nobody I'm very close to has gotten it, and I'm hoping that it stays that way.
Right, right, right. Yeah, sure. So, Prajnesh, first of all, really thanks a lot for coming into my show. Thanks a lot because I had
No
been
problem.
trying,
Happy to be here.
yeah, trying to get hold of you for quite some time, but you have been busy with your schedule,
Okay.
and yeah,
Right,
uh,
right. Yeah.
yeah, sure. So, Prajnesh, you obviously have been one of the best, tennis players that India has ever produced, and the results shows. In fact, you are only the seventh Indian to have cracked top 100,
Hmm.
in singles, so to say. So singles is one aspect that India, compared to doubles, of course, we have not been, able to produce those many results. Of course, we have had fine players. In fact, we have got some great players like Vijay Amitraj and Ramesh Krishnan, who were as high as 16 and 23rd on the ATP. So, in fact, in the Open era, if you really ask me, I mean, there are hardly six other guys apart from you: Anand
Right.
Amitraj, Ramesh Krishnan, Leander, of course, and then Somdev, and then Yuki Bambri, apart from you. So there are seven guys,
Correct.
which are
Correct.
on our fingertips, so to say. So that
Yeah.
essentially says that, of course, you have had had a great run so far. But of course, along the line, along the way, you have world class players like your Denis Shapovalov, then Benoit Paire, then Nikoloz Basilashvili. So obviously, you have produced results that speaks volumes about it. But all this happened pretty quickly for you, right? Because for 5 full years, I guess you were out of tennis action because of injury.
Right.
So obviously, that required a lot of mental fortitude for you, right? To stay sane during that time. So obviously, that also showed a
Yeah.
lot about your character. I mean, because there was a time I'm sure a lot of other players would have hang up their racket. So tell us something about that, because that essentially also speaks a lot about being patient, be in the moment, and how is it you really motivated yourself during that time? Because obviously, that's the time wherein you had to tell yourself, okay, just hang on, my time is going to come, and let's get prepared, for the future.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't easy. I mean, I obviously didn't go in knowing that I would be injured for that long or that I wouldn't be able to compete consistently for multiple years. Someone had told me that at the beginning of this process, I'm not sure how I would have felt or of those injuries because I didn't anticipate that it would be. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello.
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah.
I can. Yeah,
So yeah, I didn't anticipate that it would take 5 years, and so I obviously
true.
uh, I initially I was okay, I was injured for 3 months, and I said okay, it'll get better, and then I kept trying to do rehab. I tried to go to different doctors, physios, get explore different options, try to understand why it was recurring or why it wasn't going away, and then time kind of just went by. And obviously I've been lucky enough to have my family always support me, and they continue to
True.
say that stick with it, and that is something that I've been privileged enough to have. Not everybody could have done that. It's not all me when it comes to the fact that I waited, because most people cannot just afford to sit around for that many years and then say let's see
True.
what happens later. So I was lucky that way. Obviously, even though that I had that advantage, it was still very difficult for me to sit out for so many years, and I obviously thought about stopping a few times, and then towards the end, my father also said, why don't you give it a last shot? And then that's when I said, okay, let's see what happens. And that was the time when I managed to get rid of the injury, and then I started to sort of have that upswing where I play tournaments continuously, and then within about a couple of years, then I started to make those breakthroughs and got close to the 150s, and I broke the 100, the top 100, and that's when I had all those big wins at Indian Wells. And I was sort of, there was that about a year where I was, or maybe 9 months or so, where I was playing very well, starting from the Challenger or from Davis Cup
True.
in
Yes.
China.
Yeah.
So I had a very big run for about a year. And I mean, obviously, I think that was mainly because of the fact that I was trying to adjust my game. I was trying to improve all the time, and some of those things just came together, and it just so happened that the timing of things was that all of a sudden I started to do well, but it was really just that I had been improving, and at some point, the improvements were good enough for me to start getting the victories. And obviously, on top of that, when you start to win and then you get the confidence, then both those things put together, it's sort of you ride that momentum, and that's what I did there. And I obviously have continued to try to improve, and then after that I didn't get the results I wanted. I had some injuries, uh, but that was only one part of it. But I also tried to make changes to my game that I wasn't very successful in doing. And but I think for every tennis player, to keep moving up the levels, you have to keep making adaptations, and I was trying to do that. I still am. And along the way, I had some not great results, plus the injuries, plus all of those things put together, gave me a little bit of a backslide. But at the end of it, I'm still confident that I'm on the right path, and as long as I stick to what I'm sure of, and continue to improve, I'll get my ranking will go up, and I'll have those big results.
Sure. Yes. I mean, that's definitely a big comeback for you, right? I mean, staying out of tennis for 5 years and coming back. Having said that, I guess 2018 really happened to be your breakthrough year, right? Because in a sense, and I guess your victory against China in the crucial Davis Cup rubber, that really paved the way for the big things that was coming after that, right? Because we could see that after that victory, you won that challenge immediately after that, and then you're playing at a totally different level. So was that kind of a very good, turning point for you? Because obviously you were playing well at the time, but it's just that you needed a catalyst, so to say, a spark to really, for you to really, get motivated for the other results that followed, after that.
Yeah, I think I found some sort of gear mentally where right after the Davis Cup, when I just kind of found this extra gear that I didn't know I had, and then I was able to kind of start continuing to play on in that gear, all the time, and then it became a habit for me to play at that level. So yeah, and I mean it was a big deal for me because I didn't. Obviously, I knew that I had the potential to win challengers, but I until I actually won it or I got close, I didn't see it.
True.
And then when I finally won that one, it was like sort of happiness and relief all together, because I'd finally won a big tournament, something that I had wanted for a long time. And then I also felt, okay, this shows me that I can produce results at a higher level, and I continue to try to use that belief to build and do it at a bigger stage, and including the victories with Shapo and the rest of the guys who I've had wins with.
True. Yes. Now, during that phase wherein you were injured, it often happens that you just take a step back. Of course, unfortunately, so I mean, that maybe would have given you enough time to just step back and think about a game. Because the moment you came back, I guess you sort of changed your game because you're striking big with your inside forehand, and also your backhand became more steady. Like Vaska also said in the interview that your backhand tremendously improved. Right. So is it that after your injury, you came out of injury, you kind of changed your game because you have just come out of injury, you need to play big so that the points become shorter. So was it a conscious effort on your part to really play big, which eventually is of course producing results, so to say, on the bigger level? Was that kind of a conscious thing that you did?
That was not something that I had started to do right away after I came out of the injury. I initially was playing conservative. I was trying to win matches. I was trying to build up my endurance because I was getting tired in my matches very early, and I was still playing futures. Maybe even a set and a half, I would be running out of gas. And I was just working very hard on my fitness, trying to build up my, base so that I could sustain matches. And obviously, I still had a decent amount of confidence that I could win at that level. So there were some matches I won purely with my mind rather than with my tennis or with the way I was playing tennis in the matches. And they were not necessarily the best matches in terms of improving the way to play in matches, but I was, sometimes a win is a win. And I was sort of getting through a lot of matches like that. And then over a period of time, I started to feel like I was getting stuck playing that certain version. And then I felt, okay, I'm going to have to play a little bit bigger, play more aggressive, something that I was capable of doing, but I just wasn't, choosing that strategy in the matches, and then I tried to execute that in the matches. Initially, I failed. It took me a while to find the right mix where I don't overhit, and I also, had needed to trust that I could hit the ball like that in matches, and I had never really done it under pressure, or I hadn't done it consistently under pressure. And then over a period of time, that started happening, and then that snowball effect. So yeah, it was a conscious decision to start playing more aggressive and to sort of rely a little bit more on my backhand, make it more steady, close those small holes in my game. But it was not right after the injury. It was more like after a period of time where I felt I was
Okay.
not able to move up the ladder as
True.
fast as I wanted, and then I made those changes.
True. And that obviously produced results on the bigger stage, because your biggest scalp after that, was in the form of Denis Shapovalov, who was at the time
Right.
world number 23. Of course, now he's one of the biggest stars on tour itself. And
Mm-hmm.
that incidentally happened on a surface wherein you made your debut in the professional circuit, right?
Right.
The
Right. Mm-hmm.
Mercedes Cup, right? Tell
Yeah.
us something about that match, because that was really a big victory, right? Because you are playing on surface, which is, of course, you were kind of alien to it because it was your first debut grass court
Yeah.
match in the professionals.
Uh,
Just tell us something about that. Yeah.
I think that that tournament, the result I got in that tournament, I have to give a lot of credit to my coaches in Germany. So Basti and Bjorn were the two coaches who were really helping me at the time. And Basti is someone who I've worked with for many years, and Bjorn is another coach who was part of the academy until recently. And the two of them together, they really helped me work on my grass court game, even though we didn't have grass courts to practice on in Germany, or at least where we were.
True.
I
Yeah.
was, we did a lot of drills which were very specific to grass, trying to stay low, trying to play closer to the baseline, keep a shorter backswing, and we did a lot of drills which were sort of weird for a hard court because we were training on a hard court for grass, and I got pretty good at doing that, and my legs were pretty strong at the time with
Yeah.
all that work that I'd put in working on that particular way. And I think I also worked quite a lot on my serve in that period. And when I went to Stuttgart, my serve was clicking. And Stuttgart, there's also a little bit more bounce than a lot of other grass courts. So it was sort of the conditions that I liked when it came to a grass court. So I had that going for me. And then the fact that I was moving very well, which is a big advantage on grass, because moving on grass is extremely important, and it's something that's underrated. So if you can't move well on that surface, it's extremely tough to play. And I was able to do that better than I thought, because I obviously did not really have much experience doing that before. And first couple of matches, I think first match I played I think it was Evan King, and he is also someone who's not played on grass before. So I just got the better of him. I served better, and then there was one close match, and then I played Dennis in the first round, which I think I came out firing. And uh, I think it was also pretty difficult for him. First grass court match of the season. For me, it was my first grass court match in my career, but
Yeah.
he was also probably not very sharp. And I think it's always easier for the underdog to sort of go after the ball and not worry about it, because I have nothing to lose. Nobody expected me to beat him there. So I think I used that situation well, and I played free, and I hurt him, and I made him feel that if he doesn't do the right things, I could beat him. And then I think that pressure sort of gave me a big chance. And then I got a huge lead in the third set, and I actually kind of let it go, and then I found a way to put that match away. So that was pretty big for me. And that was one of those first instances where I felt that if I play my A game, I could beat anybody in the world, because clearly Dennis at the time was proving that he could beat just about anyone.
Absolutely.
And the
Yeah.
fact that I could beat him showed me that if I play really, really well, then I can beat anyone too.
True. I mean, I guess that was kind of a revelation for you also, right? Because you having a big serve and a big forehand, I guess you will anyway do well on a faster surface like grass, right?
Right.
So I guess you would fancy your chances more on grass now. Of course, anyways, we hardly play on grass, nowadays. But still, on a grass, I guess you would, kind of fancy your chances, right? Because that could
Uh,
be, yeah.
I think I have different weapons in my game, and there are certain parts of my game that are good for grass, and certain parts that I would not want to do on grass. For example, if I'm a little bit defensive, if I start to back off and I try to play spin, then that would hurt me a lot on grass. So it really depends on the kind of mindset that I have going in. And if I choose, have the right mindset, I'm aggressive and I play a certain style, then I can be pretty dangerous on grass. So I think, I mean, I have the kind of tennis that I can use to hurt players on every surface. And depending on how my tactics are and my mentality is on that given day, I can be dangerous.
True, true. Yes, you have shown us that, and in fact, you showed us more in the Indian Wells, right? Which was again your debut Masters,
Yeah.
and you beat, I mean, a player of the caliber of Benoit Paire in straight sets. Then following up with another, win against a world-class player like Nikoloz Basilashvili. So what really went right in that tournament? Because you were obviously, it's not one of those tournaments you're playing in, Masters, ATP 1000.
Yeah, but when I went in there, I mean, I started with the qualifying, and I had come off of a lot of victories. I had been winning a lot of matches getting there, so obviously I had a lot of momentum, and I was starting to use my tennis better tactically, and I had gotten some help from on my coaches, and I had been making tactical changes. Even Balachandran was helping me with some stuff, Balu sir, and he gave me some advice on what I could do to use my forehand better, and I was starting to employ different strategies in my game. And when I got to Indian Wells, I was trying to use that, and I could see that it was hurting my opponents a lot. So I just kept at it. I didn't really change too much, to be honest, from the challengers that I had done well earlier, and then I just kind of continued to do the same thing, which with a little more belief, because it was coming more naturally for me. So I got through the qualifying, and I beat a couple of good players to get through the qualies. There, not one guy is currently top 100, I think,
True, true.
Caruso,
Yes, yeah,
and Jason Jung is a very solid tennis player, not easy to get past. And then when I got to the main draw, obviously I played Benoit Paire. There was probably not someone who I'm used to playing that kind of standard.
true.
I mean, there was a lot of wind on that day, and I think it was pretty uncomfortable for the two of us. And I play a lot of spin. He likes to kind of go after the ball, so I would say that the condition suited me a little bit more. And But I made the most of it. I tried to use the wind to my advantage. I knew that he didn't like it and he was not comfortable, and I was trying to make him play more balls than he would want to. And that I think he initially started with he was up a break, and then I found a way to get to break point, and then I
True.
just sort of scrambled through one, got the break back, and then I got past that first set. It was close first set, and yeah, I think on that day I played the big points well. That was something that really helped me a lot to win that match, and yeah, and that was obviously very big for me. Once again, second time to repeat, beating somebody of that kind of in that ranking range, and just sort of after all those wins, it was just making me feel like I can play this level, I can be here now. And then I'm not sure if Basilashvili was my. I think I played.
Uh,
Who would I play first?
I think that was the third round, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
and with Nikoloz as well, obviously somebody who hits the ball big, and
yeah,
not not someone who's, how would I say, uh, someone he likes to go after the ball. So I knew that if I slow down a little bit and give him space, he's gonna just wipe me out. And so, but I went in there saying, okay, I know what my strengths are, and I tried to use them to the best of my ability.
yeah.
Once again, in the beginning of the match, I got an early break. I used that to win the first set, and then he won a big second. But I think in that match, I'll give myself credit for being very tough mentally, and I didn't
Absolutely,
go
yeah,
away no matter the
yeah,
level that he played, because he was not giving it away as well, even though uh, you know I was playing very well and doing everything I could to try to win that match, and he was there. I had to sort of stay with him more than in reverse, because I think he's used to playing that kind of level or that gear more than
yeah.
I am,
True.
and I had to really fight hard to be there mentally. And when I got through that match, that was so big for me, because it was one of those matches where I didn't just win in straight sets quickly and come out and say, oh, I played great tennis, so I'm good enough to beat this guy. It
True,
was
true.
it
Yes.
was like a dog fight, and sometimes those matches, especially with someone of that level, when I could get a match in that sort of way, it made me feel really good, because I felt that mentally as well. Now I'm starting to get the ability to play continuously for 3 hours, and that's something that's very important, because you have to be able to do that against the big guys. And yeah, that was once again huge for me.
Yes, yes, of course, yeah. So, I mean, you have been coached, mainly by Balu sir, like you said, and then Bastin also, right? So obviously, you had a good association with both the coaches. Uh,
Right.
yeah. So what are the different things that you would have done with these coaches that you might not have done with somebody else? Because they obviously know your game in and out, right? Your strengths, your weakness, where to where to work upon more, stuff like that. Can you just, of course, you have been vocal about both the coaches. So can you just tell something more about these coaches?
I've been at Alex Vasquez Academy for a long time, and I've worked a lot with them. I've grown as a player, and starting with I went there when I was injured, and then I worked so much. I had so many issues with my backhand, and Basti put in many hours to help me work on that department of my game. Uh, and over a period of time, I built that shot and started to believe in it, started to win matches, and then I got help from also at the time Bjorn was there, and he helped me when I was in Stuttgart playing sharp Dennis, and he gave me very good tactical advice where I should play the ball and what spots would help me sort of be more effective against him. Not just about playing good tennis, because that's not enough against a player of that level, because he can counter whatever I do as well.
True.
And
Yeah.
so I started to learn to look at the game with more than one angle, not just hitting the ball well and that's good enough. I started to see, okay, there are more things I can do. And Balu sir, someone I've known for a very long time. I worked with him from probably when I was 15 or 16. That's when I started to first time I met him, and started. I was there in Bangalore when at HPTC, and we've had a relationship since then. And he felt that he looks at the game a little bit differently from other coaches, and he's one of those. He likes to look at the game sometimes from a player's perspective, and see,
Okay.
okay, if I was Prajnesh, how could I use that game to hurt the opponent? And he gave me some advice on what he thought I could do to change or to add to my game to make it more effective. And when I did some of those things, I got some big results, or I could see that it was very effective. And the moment it was working, I was open to trying it, and then when it worked, I was not going to stop doing it, because I realized that it was giving me the results I wanted. And I think I have a long way to go when it comes to learning about strategies and tactics, because I didn't look at the game from that angle a lot when I was younger, so I have to keep growing as a player.
True. Now, one interesting thing I wanted to ask you was that now you, of course, started off your tennis in Chennai, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
you moved to Germany, of course. Now, in a place like Chennai, which is so hot and humid, and anyway, tennis training is, you're doing it outdoor. It's very energy sapping and all that. So how do you all guys, not you guys, sweat it out for 5-6 hours? I mean, it must be quite difficult, right? I mean, training in Chennai is one thing, and training in good weather of Germany is another thing, right?
Yeah, it is not as easy to train for long hours in Chennai. I don't honestly don't know if I've ever done 5-6 hours here. Probably the max I've done is 3.5, 4.
True.
But
Okay.
I mean, if you really want to do very long hours in India or in the heat, then usually we try to start early, or we play under lights. So we try to
Okay.
start by 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and then play longer, so that
Mm.
it's not as hot when we're playing long hours. And I think that's something that we've always done from when we were younger, when we were in India, because everybody goes to school here by 9, and so we have to finish tennis by 8, 8:15,
Okay.
so that we can get to school on time. So I'm someone who was used to that routine when I was younger, because I used to play at 6 a.m. and then in the evening at 3 as well after school got over. So obviously, I sort of lost that habit a little bit when I went to Europe, because they start much later there. And then when I came
Okay.
back, it was not as fun for me to start the day at 5 a.m. But you have to do, it's important to have the ability to make sacrifices and be disciplined when you want to succeed. So I think we all have the motivation to do that when we need to. And yeah, so that's just how we find a way around the sun. And sometimes we do play through the heat. We play at 11, 12, but it's demanding, and you can't really do that for too long, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. But if you keep doing that, it
True.
just kind of makes you get burnt out. So we don't generally try to play under that much heat.
True. Yes. Now, of course, with the current situation, COVID times and all that, how is it? I mean, obviously, tennis is out of question now. So how is it you're
Mm-hmm.
keeping yourself busy? I mean, you're training, doing physical training at home. How is it like you're keeping yourself
Yeah,
fit?
I'm trying to do as much as possible at home. With the equipment that I have a few dumbbells and I try to use that, and then some body weight exercises. And I have a treadmill at home, so I run on that and I do some cardio. So that's the way I've been managing to train so far at home. It's not the most fun to be at home and do everything, but
True. Yeah.
at this point, everybody is struggling and it's not easy. And I think we're all just waiting to see when we can start to go back to our routines. Chennai is obviously one of the places where it's taking longer than other places, but there's not much we can do about that at this point.
True. True. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you actually, get back to tennis, of course, we'll be getting back to tennis sometime.
Mhm.
So what are your, goals set, so to say? I mean, do you set small goals, big goals? How is like, do you have any goals? I mean, sure you have. So what are the goals that you have? Because
Uh,
you already have
yeah,
reached 75. Yeah. So maybe the next benchmark would be top 50. I was like,
yes, I mean, I have a goal to obviously get higher than my current highest, and it would be great for me to break top 50, top 20. I hope that I can get really far, and I need to improve a lot physically, mentally, and in tennis. I think every department, I need to work on to give myself a realistic chance to do that. And when I go get back on court now, I'll probably have to start a little slow. I haven't played much, and I need to make sure that I don't start too fast. And once I get the hang of things, start playing some points, get some matches in. I don't know how sharp I'll be, and obviously not many players have played matches now.
true.
But
Yeah.
for example, in Europe, they're already starting to play some exhibitions, some closed door matches, and they're ahead of us when it comes to that now. So I'll just have to do a little bit of catching up and try to use the time that we have now to build up as much as possible. Because once we start practicing, if there are no tournaments in sight, then you have that 1 month or 2 months to work on physical aspects, technical aspects that you can't really do if you usually only have a couple of weeks. So I'll have to try and make the most of the time that I get once I'm on the court.
True, true, true. Now talking about coming back to Chennai now, Chennai has produced some of the best tennis players. I mean, I would say in a way Chennai is a hotbed of tennis, right? Right from the Vijay
Mhm.
Amirpras to Ramesh Krishna, of course, before the Ramanath Krishnan. Then we have
Right.
you, we have got Ram Kumar. So what is this thing about Chennai? I mean, they keep on producing tennis champions.
I think we just have a tennis culture here. When it's sort of like when a couple of players have been that good, then everybody looks up to them and everyone wants to be like them. So we've had a really really great tennis culture in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai, and all along with the Chennai Open that was there for so many years. So a lot of kids were very inspired by that, and you watch all the Indians come here, play big players, and so it's natural that more players pick up the sport, more kids start to play tennis, and then when there's enough people playing it, then some of them are gonna get to the top. And I've just been one of those lucky players who's been influenced by that culture and tradition.
True, true, yes. And who are your role models? It might be any sports. I mean, who are your idols, so to say, in sports? Whom do you actually follow?
I've always been a big fan of the top players. I've always watched Roger, Rafa, Novak. Um, I think I was a very big follower of Roger in the beginning. I used to, I still love the way he plays. It's so clean and effortless. And when I was much younger, then I used to feel, I used to sort of hope that one guy would win versus the other. So
Yeah,
I liked Roger more than Rafa. And then over a period of time, I started to, respect the kind of um um, quality that they bring to the tennis court on a daily basis. And I started to admire all of them for what they could do. Each one has their own, each one has his own set of strengths. And it was amazing for me to watch that and to learn and, to see them adapt against each other to find a way to overcome the challenges posed. And that just inspires me to be the best version of myself on a tennis court. And I'm very glad that we're in this era of tennis and we're witnessing this kind of competition.
true, true. So, given the chance, say, given the option, whom would you like to beat in the final of Grand Slam? Rafa, Roger, or Novak?
It doesn't matter who it is. If I could win a Grand Slam, I
True,
don't
true.
really care who's on the other side. Yeah.
True, true, yes, yes, true, true, yes.
Yeah.
So Prajnesh, thank you so much for your time. I mean, it was really a pleasure having you, hosting you. I mean, for so many reasons, it's not only because you're a champion, but because from the kind of comeback that you made, that really says a lot about you. And yes, and I'm sure a lot of kids already follow you and will keep on following you. And I'm sure more accolades are on your way. And it's really a pleasure, to have you here. Thank you so much, Prajnesh.
Thank you.
Myself follow you so much, whenever you are on court.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay. Thank you. Glad to hear that.
be it in night or whatever, in Indian Wells, I followed whatever I could,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll all keep on following you, of course. And yeah.
Thanks a lot, and I hope I can inspire as many players and as many kids for the next generation. And if I can do it, then anybody can. And I just
Sure.
hope that we find some superstars in India.
Sure, Prajnesh. Yes, it's all evolution, right? I mean, that's how it starts. I mean, seeing you, somebody else plays, and then he might be a better player. Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah.
Correct.
So thanks, Prajnesh, not only for coming on the show, but of course, for the bigger picture of what you have been achieving for India and for yourself also. And all the best, and see you on the court very soon.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Thanks, Prajnesh. Thanks.